He was just prisoner 804, until all dragons landed and said, "Your throne awaits." Before we dive into this story, drop a quick hi in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. In the darkest corner of Celestial Prison Station Omega, where the artificial lights flickered weakly against the vast emptiness of space, prisoner 804 stared through a small viewport at the stars beyond, dreaming of a freedom he would never know. Malak Reed had been prisoner 804 for so long that he sometimes forgot his real name. 10 years into his life sentence for a crime he didn't commit, the routine had become his existence. Wake up at the sound of the buzzer, eat the flavorless protein paste they called breakfast, perform his assigned tasks in the station's waste management sector, and return to his cell before lights out. Day after day, year after year, until the stars outside began to blur together, indistinguishable and meaningless. The Celestial Prison Station Omega orbited in the furthest reaches of the Arcturus system, a massive construct housing the worst criminals from 12 different planetary systems. Or at least, that was the official story. In reality, it was a dumping ground for political prisoners, dissidents, and anyone else the Galactic Confederacy wanted to disappear without the messiness of an execution. Malak had been a pilot in the Earth Defense Force when the Confederacy annexed Earth 50 years ago. His crime? Refusing to relinquish control of his squadron to Confederacy officials during the takeover. While most humans had acquiesced to their new interstellar overlords, Malak and a handful of others had resisted. The resulting skirmish had been brief and one-sided, ending with Malak being branded a terrorist and sentenced to life imprisonment. Today marked exactly 10 years since his incarceration, though there was no commemoration of the fact. No cake, no card, not even a nod from the guards. Just another day in an endless string of identical days. Malak pressed his forehead against the cold, transparent steel of the viewport and closed his eyes. At 45, he was no longer the defiant young pilot who had once challenged an empire. His once dark hair was now streaked with gray, and deep lines etched his face. His shoulders, once proudly squared in an Earth Defense Force uniform, now slumped under the weight of his prison jumpsuit. The buzzer for midday meal echoed through the corridors of the prison station, startling Malak out of his thoughts. With a sigh, he turned away from the viewport and shuffled toward the mess hall with the rest of the inmates. The mess hall was a cacophony of sounds and smells, filled with beings from across the galaxy. Multi-headed Taurians argued loudly over card games while slender, blue-skinned Nebulan monks ate in silent meditation. Reptilian Draken guards patrolled the perimeter, their scaled hands resting casually on plasma batons. Malak took his tray of gray protein paste and found his usual spot at the end of a long table. He sat alone, as he always did. After 10 years, the other inmates knew to leave him be. As he mechanically spooned the tasteless paste into his mouth, the lights in the mess hall suddenly flickered and dimmed. A moment later, a deep rumble shook the entire station, causing trays to slide across tables and inmates to mutter in alarm. One of the Draken guards raised a clawed hand to the communication device at his ear ridge. His yellow eyes widened. Then, chaos erupted. Alarms blared throughout the station, their piercing wail drowning out all other sounds. Red emergency lights bathed the mess hall in an eerie glow as guards began shouting orders, herding inmates back toward their cells. Malak stood, his heart pounding. In 10 years, there had never been an emergency like this. Prison riots, yes. Power fluctuations, occasionally. But never anything that caused the entire station to shake on its axis. Another violent tremor rocked the station, stronger than the first. This time, several inmates lost their footing and crashed to the floor. The overhead lights shattered, raining sparks down on the panicking crowd. Then, the main doors to the mess hall burst inward with such force that they tore free from their reinforced hinges. Smoke billowed into the room, obscuring the entrance. And through that smoke strode a figure that made Malak's blood run cold. It was a Draken, but unlike any Malak had ever seen. Standing nearly 9 feet tall, its scales were a deep, midnight black that seemed to absorb the light around it. Massive wings, currently folded against its back, occasionally twitched, revealing glimpses of a membrane that shimmered with all the colors of a nebula. Its eyes glowed like twin supernovas, fixed on the crowd of inmates with predatory intensity. Behind this magnificent creature came others of its kind, each as imposing as the first, though varying in scale, color, and size. They fanned out into the mess hall, ignoring the guards who had drawn their weapons but seemed too stunned to use them. The lead Draken raised a clawed hand, and silence fell over the room as if by magic. Even the alarms seemed to quiet, though Malak could still see the flashing lights. When the creature spoke, its voice was like thunder rolling across a plain, deep and resonant, and somehow inside Malak's head rather than merely in his ears. "We seek the one called Malak Reed," it said, its forked tongue flicking between razor-sharp teeth. "The lost heir of House Zenith." Malak felt his mouth go dry. In 10 years, no one had used his full name. He was always Prisoner 804, or simply Human, spat with contempt by the guards. Now, this creature not only knew his name, but was searching for him specifically. Before he could decide whether to identify himself, one of the Draken guards stepped forward, plasma baton raised. "This is a secure facility under the authority of the Galactic Confederacy," the guard said, voice quavering slightly. "You have no jurisdiction here. Leave immediately or face the consequences." The lead black Draken regarded the guard with something like amusement in its glowing eyes. Without warning, it moved with blinding speed, seizing the guard by the throat and lifting him off the ground as effortlessly as a child might lift a doll. "The Confederacy," it said, the words dripping with disdain, "has no authority over the ancient houses. Your pitiful government exists because we allow it." The creature tightened its grip, and the guard's struggles weakened. "Now, where is Malak Reed?" The guard's eyes bulged as he choked out words. "Prisoner 804. Section D." The black Draken dropped the guard, who crumpled to the floor, gasping for breath. Then its burning gaze swept the room until it locked onto Malak, who stood frozen at the end of his table. "There you are," the creature said, satisfaction evident in its rumbling voice. "The lost heir returns at last." Malak found his voice, though it came out as little more than a whisper. "You've made a mistake. I'm just a prisoner. A human pilot who made the wrong enemies." The black Draken moved toward him, the crowd of inmates parting before it like water. It stopped just feet from Malak, towering over him, its presence so overwhelming that Malak had to resist the urge to fall to his knees. "No mistake, Malak Reed," the creature said. "Though you do not remember, the blood of House Zenith flows through your veins. You are the last of your line, hidden away on Earth for your protection, disguised in human form through ancient magic now faded." It extended a clawed hand toward Malak. "And now, after 1,000 years of searching, we have found you. Your throne awaits." Malak stared at the outstretched hand, his mind reeling. "This is insane," he said. "I'm human, born on Earth to human parents. I have the birth certificate to prove it." The black Draken's mouth curved in what might have been a smile, revealing more of those gleaming teeth. "Memories can be created, documents forged. Look into your heart, last son of Zenith. Have you never felt different? Set apart? Have you never dreamed of flying on your own wings through star-studded skies?" Malak wanted to deny it, but the words died in his throat. Because he had dreamed exactly that, night after night, for as long as he could remember. Dreams so vivid that waking to his human body always left him with a sense of profound loss. Another Draken, this one with scales of burnished copper, stepped forward. "My Lord Thalaxer," it said to the black Draken, "the Confederacy forces have been alerted. We must depart." Thalaxer nodded but kept his gaze fixed on Malak. "Time grows short. You must choose, heir of Zenith. Come with us now, reclaim your heritage and your throne, or remain here as prisoner 804 until your human form dies of old age." Malak looked around the mess hall at the stunned faces of inmates and guards alike. This was his existence now, had been for 10 years, and would be until he died. What did he have to lose? "If I go with you," he said slowly. What happens then? Phalaxer's eyes burned brighter. Then we return to the ancient realms, where you will undergo the awakening and reclaim your true form. Then, as the prophesied returner, you will unite the 7 houses under your rule and lead us against the encroaching darkness that threatens to consume all worlds, including this one. Malak almost laughed. It was too absurd, too grandiose. And if I refuse? Then the darkness wins, Phalaxer said simply, and all worlds fall, one by one, until nothing remains but void. The copper-scaled draken spoke again, urgency in its voice. My lord, we must leave now. The Confederacy has dispatched destroyers. Phalaxer extended his hand once more. Choose, Malak read. Now. Malak hesitated only a moment longer. Then, with a deep breath, he reached out and took the massive clawed hand in his own. Instantly, a jolt of energy surged through him, so powerful that his vision widened out. When it cleared, Phalaxer was smiling, a genuine expression this time that transformed his fearsome visage into something almost benevolent. The blood knows, the great draken said. Welcome home, my king. Before Malak could respond, the station rocked with another explosion, this one close enough to send debris raining down from the ceiling. Phalaxer pulled Malak close, sheltering him with one wing as he barked orders to the other drakens. As they rushed from the mess hall, half carrying Malak between them, he caught glimpses of battles raging throughout the station. Drakens of various colors fought against Confederacy guards, their natural weapons proving far more effective than the guards' energy weapons. They reached a massive hangar bay where an enormous vessel waited, unlike any ship Malak had ever seen. It appeared to be grown rather than built, its sleek lines reminiscent of a massive serpent coiled and ready to strike. No visible engines or weapons marred its smooth surface, yet Malak somehow knew it was both faster and more powerful than anything in the Confederacy fleet. As they approached the ship, a seam appeared in its side, widening into an entrance. Inside was a cathedral-like space, dimly lit by bioluminescent panels that pulsed with a gentle rhythm reminiscent of breathing. The heart of Zenith, Phalaxer said, noticing Malak's awestruck expression. Your ancestral vessel, awaiting its master's return for a millennium. They secured Malak in what appeared to be a command chair at the center of the vast chamber. No visible controls surrounded it, just an empty space and a clear view through a membrane-like viewport at the front of the ship. How do you pilot this thing? Malak asked, his pilot's curiosity momentarily overriding his confusion and fear. Phalaxer made a sound that might have been a chuckle. You already know, my king. The ship is bonded to your bloodline. It will respond to your thoughts once you accept the connection. Before Malak could protest that he had no idea how to establish such a connection, the ship shuddered. Outside the viewport, Confederacy fighters had entered the hangar, their weapons powering up. They'll destroy the hangar doors before they let us leave, Malak said, falling back on his military training. We're trapped. No, Phalaxer said, taking position behind Malak's chair. We are Draken. We make our own doors. He placed a massive clawed hand on Malak's shoulder. Close your eyes, my king. Look inward. Find the spark that has always been there, waiting. The blood of Zenith, the essence of the cosmic dragon. Find it and set it free. Feeling foolish but seeing no alternative, Malak closed his eyes. At first, he felt nothing but the cool command chair beneath him and Phalaxer's heavy hand on his shoulder. Then, gradually, he became aware of something else. A warmth in his chest, pulsing in time with his heartbeat. No, not his heartbeat, something slower, more powerful. The rhythm of the ship around him. As Malak focused on that warmth, it grew, spreading through his body like liquid fire. Not painful, but intense, filling him with a strength he had never known. And with that strength came awareness. Of the ship, its systems, its capabilities. Of the Drakens aboard, their positions, their vital signs. And of the Confederacy fighters outside, their weapons locked onto the heart of Zenith. Without conscious thought, Malak reached out with his mind, and the ship responded. Energy surged through conduits he could now perceive, gathering at the bow of the vessel. With a thought, he released it. A beam of pure white energy lanced from the heart of Zenith, vaporizing the hangar doors and several Confederacy fighters unfortunate enough to be in its path. The vacuum of space reached in, pulling debris and unfortunate guards out into the void. "Now, my king," the Laxer urged. "Take us home." Again, Malak reached out with his mind, and the ship responded. With a grace belying its massive size, the heart of Zenith glided out of the destroyed hangar and into open space. Confederacy destroyers loomed ahead, their weapons arrays tracking the escaping vessel. But Malak wasn't afraid. Somehow, he knew the heart of Zenith could outrun and outfight anything the Confederacy possessed. More than that, he knew exactly how to pilot it, the knowledge flowing into him from the ship itself through their newfound connection. With a thought, he sent the vessel into a series of evasive maneuvers that no human-piloted craft could have executed, evading the destroyer's initial salvo. Another thought, and the ship's defensive systems activated, shimmering fields of energy deflecting the few shots that came close. "Magnificent," the Laxer breathed. "You pilot as if born to it." "Because you were." Malak opened his eyes, watching the stars blur as the heart of Zenith accelerated to speeds he had never imagined possible. The prison station and Confederacy vessels rapidly dwindled behind them, soon lost among the stars. "Where are we going?" he asked, still not entirely convinced this wasn't some elaborate hallucination brought on by a decade of isolation and prison food. "To the ancient realms," the Laxer replied. "Beyond the galactic barrier, in the space between spaces. There, you will undergo the awakening and reclaim your true form and memories." Malak shook his head, overwhelmed. "You keep saying that, but it makes no sense. If I'm not human, what am I?" The Laxer moved to stand before him, those burning eyes intense. "You are Draken, my king. But not just any Draken. You are of the royal line of House Zenith, one of the 7 ancient houses. Your true name is Malakzarian, celestial wind of the 7th heaven, lord of the cosmic flame, rightful emperor of the 7 houses." He bowed deeply. "And my liege, Malak, or Malakzarian, slumped in the command chair. It was too much to process. Yet something about it resonated within him, like the echo of a forgotten song. "If what you say is true," he said slowly, "why was I on Earth? Why didn't I know any of this?" The Laxer straightened, his expression solemn. "Because your parents, the Emperor and Empress, sent you away to save your life. 1,000 years ago, the 7 houses were betrayed from within. House Obsidian, led by the usurper Vorgoth, aligned with the darkness we now face and slaughtered the royal families. Your parents, knowing they could not escape, used the last of their power to transform you into a human infant and send you through time and space to Earth, where the usurper could not find you." "1,000 years?" Malak asked incredulously. "That's impossible. I'm 45 years old." "In your human form, yes," the Laxer said. "But Draken of the royal lines live for millennia. The spell that transformed you also suspended your true aging until the time was right for your return. And that time is now, after I've spent 10 years in a prison cell." The Laxer's expression darkened. "No, the time should have been decades ago, when the spell began to fade naturally. We have been searching for you since. But the usurper's forces were searching too. They found you first and engineered your imprisonment, though they did not realize your true identity. They merely sensed your potential power and sought to contain it." Malak ran a hand through his graying hair, trying to make sense of it all. "So you're saying my entire life has been a lie? My childhood memories, my parents, my career as a pilot, all fabricated?" "Not fabricated," the Laxer said gently. "Adapted. The spell worked with what was available. Your human parents were chosen because they had lost their own child, and their grief created a space the magic could fill. Your affinity for flying stemmed from your true nature as a winged draken. The memories are real, Malakzarian, but they are like shadows of your true destiny." Malak closed his eyes again, feeling the ship humming around him, responding to his presence. That, at least, felt undeniably real. And there was something else, a growing sense of rightness, as if pieces of a puzzle he hadn't known he was solving were finally falling into place. "How long until we reach these ancient realms?" he asked, opening his eyes again. "3 days by your human reckoning," Thalaxer replied. "Time enough for you to prepare yourself for the awakening." He gestured to the other Drakons who had maintained a respectful distance. "These are the guardians of Zenith, sworn to protect the royal line. They will help you understand what is to come." As if on cue, the copper-scaled Drakon stepped forward and bowed. "I am Axlion, First Guardian. I have dedicated my life to finding you, my king." One by one, the other Drakons introduced themselves: Seraphina of the Silver Scales, Drogath the Emerald Guardian, Lorania whose scales shimmered with the blue of deep oceans, and others. Each bowed deeply to Malak, their eyes showing a reverence that made him profoundly uncomfortable. When the introductions were complete, Thalaxer dismissed the Guardians to their duties, leaving Malak alone with the imposing Black Drakon. "I know this is overwhelming," Thalaxer said, his rumbling voice gentler than before. "But you are not alone, my king. We have waited a millennium for your return. We will help you reclaim all that was lost." Malak nodded slowly, not trusting himself to speak. His entire world had been upended in the space of an hour. He was no longer prisoner 804, but neither was he entirely convinced he was this Malakzarian, Emperor of Dragons. "Rest now," Thalaxer said, seemingly sensing his turmoil. "Your quarters have been prepared." He indicated a doorway that had appeared in the wall of the chamber. "Tomorrow, we begin your preparation for the awakening." As Malak rose from the command chair, a sudden wave of exhaustion washed over him. The adrenaline of the escape was wearing off, leaving him drained. He made his way to the indicated doorway, passing through into a chamber that took his breath away. Unlike the utilitarian cell he had called home for a decade, this room was a masterpiece of organic architecture. The walls curved gracefully, embedded with the same bioluminescent material that lit the rest of the ship. A massive bed dominated one side, covered in shimmering fabrics that seemed to shift color with each movement of air. A pool of clear liquid bubbled gently in another corner, steam rising from its surface. "These were your parents' quarters," Thalaxer said from the doorway. "They are now yours. The ship has adapted them to accommodate your current form." Malak approached the bed cautiously, running a hand over the strange fabric. It felt like liquid silk beneath his fingers, cool and soothing. "Thank you," he said, not knowing what else to say. Thalaxer bowed. "Rest well, my king. Tomorrow, your true journey begins." With that, he withdrew, the doorway sealing seamlessly behind him. Left alone, Malak sank onto the edge of the bed, his mind still reeling. Outside the viewport in his quarters, stars streaked by as the heart of Zenith carried him toward a destiny he had never imagined. "Malakzarian," he whispered, testing the name on his tongue. It felt strange, yet somehow familiar, like a word from a half-forgotten dream. As he lay back on the bed, staring up at the ceiling where points of light mirrored the stars outside, Malak wondered what the awakening would bring. Would he lose himself entirely, his human memories and identity subsumed by this alien heritage? Or would he somehow integrate both aspects of his existence? These questions followed him down into sleep, where he dreamed of flying through endless stars on massive wings, a crown of fire burning upon his brow. The 3 days of journey passed in a blur of new experiences and revelations. Malak spent hours with Thalaxer and the other Guardians, learning about Drakon culture, the 7 houses, and his supposed heritage as the last of House Zenith. He learned that the 7 houses, Zenith, Obsidian, Inferno, Tempest, Twilight, Terra, and Celestia, had once ruled the ancient realms in harmony, each house governing a different aspect of creation. House Zenith, his house, had been the unifying force, the mediator and high authority that maintained balance among the others. That balance had shattered when House Obsidian, led by Vorgith the Usurper, allied with an entity known only as the Void, a consciousness of anti-creation that sought to unmake all reality and return the universe to primordial darkness. With the void's power, Vorgoth had murdered the royal families and seized control of the seven houses, subjugating those who would not willingly follow him. Only House Zenith had been completely eradicated, or so Vorgoth believed. But Malak's parents, Emperor Zenitharius and Empress Lumina, had used ancient magic to save their infant son, transforming him into a human child and sending him through space and time to Earth, beyond Vorgoth's reach. For 1,000 years, the survivors of the loyal houses had searched for the lost heir while waging a guerrilla war against Vorgoth's regime. Now, with darkness spreading from the ancient realms into the greater universe, manifesting as the expanding influence of entities like the Galactic Confederacy, time was running out. The Confederacy is merely a symptom, Thalaxer explained on the second day as they stood on an observation deck, watching the ship navigate through a shimmering nebula. The void corrupts all it touches, turning order into oppression, peace into stagnation. The leaders of the Confederacy believe they act of their own will, but they are puppets of the darkness, advancing its agenda without realizing it. And I'm supposed to stop this? Malak asked skeptically. One person against a cosmic force of destruction? Thalaxer's burning gaze turned to him. Not alone, my king. Your return fulfills the ancient prophecy. When the last zenith returns, the seven shall be one once more. Your presence will unite the loyal houses under one banner again. And united, with you awakened to your full power, we can drive back the darkness. Malak wasn't convinced, but he kept his doubts to himself. Each passing hour aboard the Heart of Zenith made it harder to dismiss Thalaxer's claims as delusion. The ship responded to his thoughts with increasing sensitivity, as if it were becoming an extension of his own body. And deep within, that warm spark Thalaxer had helped him find continued to grow, filling him with unfamiliar energy and awareness. On the third day, Axlion the Copper Guardian announced that they were approaching the boundary to the ancient realms. The transition can be disorienting for those not accustomed to it, the Guardian warned as Malak took his place in the command chair. But the ship will protect you, my king. Malak nodded, closing his eyes to better focus on his connection with the vessel. Through that link, he sensed the approaching boundary, not a physical barrier, but a shift in the fundamental nature of space itself. The ancient realms exist in a higher dimensional state than the universe you know, Thalaxer explained from his position behind the command chair. The transition requires a shift in vibrational frequency that only Draken ships, or Drakens themselves, can achieve. As the Heart of Zenith approached the boundary, Malak felt the ship's systems adapt, energy flowing through new pathways. The humming that constantly surrounded them rose in pitch until it was almost beyond hearing. Then, with a sensation like passing through a waterfall, they crossed the threshold. Malak gasped as new sensations flooded his awareness through his link with the ship. Colors he had no names for, energies he couldn't comprehend, dimensions folding and unfolding around them. For a moment, it was overwhelming, threatening to drown his consciousness in alien perceptions. Then, gradually, his mind adapted, filtering the torrent of information into something his human brain could process. When he opened his eyes, the view through the viewport took his breath away. They flew through a vast expanse that was both like and unlike space as he knew it. Stars burned in impossible colors, their light carrying emotional resonances as well as illumination. Vast structures that defied Euclidean geometry drifted in the void, some clearly inhabited, others mysterious in purpose. In the distance, what appeared to be a massive tree of light spread branches across half the visible sky, its roots disappearing into a swirling maelstrom that might have been a black hole or something far stranger. The world tree, Thalaxer said, following his gaze. Center of the ancient realms and nexus of creation. At its heart lies the throne of 7 stars, from which the united houses once governed all realms of existence. It's incredible, Malak whispered, genuinely awestruck. It is home, Thalaxer replied simply. Your home, my king, though much has changed in your absence. As they drew closer to the world tree, Malak became aware of other vessels moving through the strange space, ships similar to the Heart of Zenith, but varying in size and configuration. Some approached, escorting them toward their destination. Others kept their distance, observing. "Word of your return spreads," Axlion said, excitement evident in his voice. "The loyal houses gather to witness the awakening. And the disloyal ones?" Malak asked. "Will soon learn to fear the name Zenith once more." Thalaxer rumbled, a dangerous edge to his voice. The Heart of Zenith descended toward one of the massive branches of the World Tree, where Malak could now see a sprawling structure that seemed to be part of the branch itself, growing from it rather than built upon it. Spires of crystalline material reached skyward, catching the light of strange stars and refracting it in dazzling patterns. "The Temple of Awakening," Thalaxer announced. "Sacred ground of House Zenith, hidden from Vorgotha's forces for a millennium, waiting for your return." The ship settled onto a vast platform extending from the temple complex. As the journey ended and the ship's systems powered down, Malak felt a momentary sense of loss as his connection with the vessel dimmed. "The bond remains," Thalaxer assured him, noticing his expression, "but it will soon be superseded by a greater awakening." Malak rose from the command chair on legs that felt surprisingly steady considering all he had experienced. Together with Thalaxer and the Guardians, he proceeded to the exit, where the ship's hull parted to reveal the world beyond. The air that greeted him was like nothing he had ever breathed, sweeter, richer, charged with energy that tingled in his lungs. The gravity was slightly lighter than Earth's, giving each step a buoyant quality. And the colors, everything seemed more vivid, more real somehow than the reality he had known. Waiting on the platform was a gathering of drakons of all colors and sizes, arranged in formal patterns that Malak somehow recognized as ceremonial formations. As he descended from the ship, a hush fell over the assembled crowd, followed by a sound like thunder as hundreds of drakons dropped to one knee in unison, heads bowed. "The lost heir returns," a voice called out, the words repeated throughout the gathering in a rising chorus. "Long live Malak Zarian! Long live House Zenith!" Malak stood frozen, overwhelmed by the display. These powerful beings, each one capable of destroying a Confederacy fighter single-handedly, knelt before him. A former prisoner in a faded jumpsuit who still wasn't entirely convinced he wasn't hallucinating. Thalaxer stepped forward, addressing the crowd. "The prophecy is fulfilled. The last Zenith has returned to us in our darkest hour. Tonight, he undergoes the awakening. Tomorrow, we begin the reclamation of the 7 thrones." A roar of approval shook the very branch they stood upon, as hundreds of Draken voices joined in celebration. Wings unfurled, catching the light in displays of color that dazzled Malak's eyes. "Come, my king," Thalaxer said, gesturing toward the temple. "The high priestess awaits." As they proceeded through the parting crowd, Drakons reached out toward Malak, not quite touching him, but seeking proximity, as if his mere presence were a blessing. Their reverence made him increasingly uncomfortable. These beings had placed all their hopes on him, believing him to be their salvation. What would happen when they discovered he was just a human pilot who had been in the wrong place at the wrong time? Yet that spark within him continued to grow, responding to this place and these beings in ways he couldn't deny. Something was happening to him, something profound and irreversible. And deep down, a part of him embraced it, welcomed it even. The Temple of Awakening was even more impressive from within than without. Vast chambers opened one into another, their walls inscribed with symbols that shifted and changed as Malak looked at them. Light came from everywhere and nowhere, illuminating the space without visible sources. At the heart of the temple, they entered a circular chamber dominated by a pool of liquid that glowed with inner light. The liquid was neither water nor any other substance Malak could identify. It moved with purpose, forming patterns and shapes before dissolving back into formlessness. Beside the pool stood a Draken unlike any Malak had yet seen. Smaller than Thalaxer, but somehow more imposing. Her scales were pure white, luminous in the chamber's strange light. Her eyes, rather than the burning intensity of other dragons, were pools of serene silver that seemed to see through Malak to his very core. High Priestess Seraphel, Thalaxer said, bowing deeply, I present to you Malakzarian, son of Zenitharius and Lumina, rightful emperor of the seven houses. The white draken approached Malak, her movements fluid and graceful. She circled him slowly, those silver eyes never leaving his face. Then, to his surprise, she reached out and placed a clawed hand gently against his cheek. So long we have waited, she said, her voice melodic and multi-layered, as if multiple beings spoke through her. So long the throne has stood empty. Welcome home, child of Zenith. Malak found himself unable to speak, transfixed by her gaze and the touch that sent waves of warmth through his body, awakening that inner spark to new intensity. Seraphel withdrew her hand and turned to the pool. The awakening must begin at once. The void grows stronger with each passing moment, and Vorgotha's forces gather. They sense the disturbance your return has created in the cosmic balance. She gestured to a small antechamber. You must prepare yourself, last Zenith. Remove the trappings of your human existence. Enter the waters of remembrance as you entered the world, without artifice or disguise. Malak looked to Thalaxer, who nodded encouragingly. With a deep breath, he entered the antechamber, finding it empty save for a simple basin of clear water and a robe of shimmering material that seemed to flow like liquid starlight. Malak removed his prison jumpsuit, feeling a profound sense of shedding his old identity along with the garment. 10 years of captivity, of being nothing but a number, fell away as he washed in the basin. The water felt different from any he had experienced, alive somehow, tingling against his skin. As he donned the robe, it conformed to his body as if custom-made, light as air yet somehow substantial. Looking down at himself, Malak barely recognized the man reflected in the still water of the basin. Something had changed in his face, his bearing. Or perhaps it was simply the context. No longer prisoner 804, but supposedly an emperor returned. When he emerged from the antechamber, a hush fell over the gathered dragons. Seraphel stood at the edge of the glowing pool, arms outstretched in welcome. The waters of remembrance await, she said. They contain the collected memories of your ancestors, the essence of what it means to be Draken and of House Zenith. When you immerse yourself, the waters will recognize your blood and return to you what was hidden, your true form, your true memories, your true self. Malak approached the pool's edge, looking down into the swirling luminescence. Will I still be me? He asked quietly. Will I remember my life on earth? Seraphel's silver eyes softened. You will be more than you are now, but not less. The human called Malak Reed will become part of the greater whole that is Malakzarian. Nothing is lost, merely transformed and expanded. Malak nodded, steeling himself. He had come too far to turn back now. With a deep breath, he stepped to the edge of the pool. What do I do? Simply surrender, Seraphel said. The waters will do the rest. Malak closed his eyes and stepped forward, feeling the liquid embrace him. It was neither hot nor cold, but it tingled against his skin like static electricity. He allowed himself to sink deeper until he was completely submerged. For a moment, there was only silence and the gentle pressure of the glowing liquid surrounding him. Then, like a dam breaking, sensation flooded through him. Memories, thousands upon thousands of them, poured into his mind. Not just his own forgotten past, but the collected experiences of generations of House Zenith. He saw the ancient realms in their prime, 7 magnificent civilizations working in harmony. He witnessed the birth of stars and the shaping of worlds. He felt the love of his true parents as they made the heartbreaking decision to send him away, tears falling from draconic eyes as they worked the spell that would hide him even from himself. And he remembered his own true nature. Pain lanced through his body as bones shifted and reformed. His skin hardened, transforming into scales of deep royal purple with highlights of gold along his spine and wings. Wings, he could feel them unfurling from his back, massive and powerful. His face elongated, senses sharpening beyond anything his human form had been capable of. He grew, his body expanding to its true size and shape. Through it all, the memories of Malak Reed remained, integrated rather than overwritten by his awakening Draken consciousness. He was both now, the human pilot and the Draken Emperor, two sets of experiences creating something greater than either alone could have been. When the transformation was complete, Malakzarian rose from the waters of remembrance in his true form. Standing 12 feet tall, his purple-gold scales gleaming in the temple's light, wings spread to their full 30-foot span, he was magnificent, every inch the Emperor the prophecies had foretold. The assembled Drakens dropped to their knees as one, even Thalaxer bowing his head in reverence. Only Seraphel remained standing, her silver eyes shining with tears of joy. "The last zenith returns," she proclaimed, her voice carrying throughout the temple and beyond. "The circle is complete. The restoration begins." Malakzarian looked down at his transformed body, flexing claws that could tear through starship hulls with ease. He felt the power coursing through him, not just physical strength, but the cosmic energy that was his birthright as a royal Draken of House Zenith. When he spoke, his voice was deeper, more resonant, yet still recognizably his own. "I remember," he said simply. "I remember everything." Seraphel approached and placed a ceremonial medallion around his neck, a seven-pointed star crafted from metals unknown to human science. "The Star of Unity," she explained, "symbol of your right to rule the seven houses as one." Malakzarian accepted the medallion, feeling its weight both physical and symbolic. With his awakening complete, he now fully understood the threat they faced and the role he was meant to play in confronting it. The void was no abstract concept, but a tangible entity of anti-creation, a conscious force that sought to unmake all reality. And Vorgoth, once a respected leader of House Obsidian, had become its willing vessel, corrupted by promises of power beyond even Draken understanding. For 1,000 years, the loyal houses had fought a losing battle against Vorgoth's forces while searching for the lost heir of Zenith. Now, with Malakzarian's return, the balance of power could finally shift, but only if they moved quickly before Vorgoth learned of his awakening and marshaled his forces. "My king," Thalaxer said, rising from his bow. "Word comes from our scouts. Vorgoth's warships approach. The traitor has sensed your awakening." Malakzarian nodded, new instincts guiding him. "Then we shall meet him, not in hiding, but openly. It is time for House Zenith to emerge from the shadows." He turned to Seraphel. "High Priestess, summon the loyal houses. All who would stand against the void must unite now under one banner." Seraphel bowed. "It shall be done, my Emperor." Malakzarian strode from the Temple of Awakening, his new form moving with a grace and power that felt increasingly natural with each step. Outside, the gathered Drakens waited, their numbers swelled by new arrivals drawn by news of his return. As he emerged, a roar went up from the crowd, a sound so powerful it shook the very branch of the world tree upon which they stood. Wings unfurled in salute, creating a sea of color and movement that stretched as far as Malakzarian could see. Thalaxer stepped forward. "What are your orders, my king?" Malakzarian considered, the military strategist in him, both the human pilot and the Draken prince whose education had included centuries of tactical studies, assessed their position. "We cannot win a war of attrition," he said finally. "Vorgoth has spent a millennium consolidating his power while we scattered and hid. We must strike directly at the heart of his strength." He turned to Thalaxer. "Prepare the heart of Zenith. We make for the throne of 7 stars." Thalaxer's burning eyes widened. "The throne itself? But Vorgoth has held it for 1,000 years. His defenses will be impenetrable." "Not to me," Malakzarian said with certainty. "The throne will recognize the blood of Zenith. It will respond to me in ways Vorgoth cannot anticipate." He looked out over the gathered Drakens. "And we will not go alone. The loyal houses will join us, not as scattered resistance fighters, but as a unified force under the Star of Unity." As if in response to his words, New vessels appeared in the strange sky above, ships similar to the Heart of Zenith, but bearing the colors and insignias of the other houses. House Inferno's ships burned with eternal flame. House Tempest's vessels rode lighting like living things. House Twilight's dark craft moved like shadows between stars. House Terra's living ships resembled floating mountains complete with forests and waterfalls. And House Celestia's vessels shimmered with the light of distant nebulae. Only House Obsidian was absent, still firmly under Vorgotha's control. Representatives from each house descended to the gathering, approaching Malexarian with mixed expressions of hope and skepticism. They were the lords and ladies of the loyal factions, those who had resisted Vorgotha's rule for a millennium at great cost. Lady Ignara of House Inferno stepped forward first, her scales the deep red of cooling magma shot through with veins of living fire. "Is it true?" she demanded, her voice crackling like a flame. "Are you truly the heir of Zenith returned?" In answer, Malexarian unfurled his wings to their full span, revealing the distinctive pattern that marked the royal line of House Zenith. A seven-pointed star mapped in the very structure of his wing membranes, visible when backlit by the strange stars of the ancient realms. Ignara's eyes widened, then she dropped to one knee. "My emperor," she said, bowing her head. "House Inferno stands ready." One by one, the other house representatives approached, challenged, and then pledged their loyalty. Lord Tempestus of House Tempest, Lady Noctis of House Twilight, Lord Turam of House Terra, and Lady Astria of House Celestia. Each recognized the truth of Malexarian's identity through signs known only to the royal houses, and each pledged their forces to his cause. With the alliance secured, Malexarian outlined his plan. It was audacious, perhaps even foolhardy, but it played to their strengths and Vorgotha's weaknesses. The usurper expects us to hide, to continue the guerrilla tactics that have sustained the resistance for a millennium, he explained to the assembled lords and ladies. He will not expect a direct assault on the throne of 7 stars, and he certainly will not expect me to be leading it. Because it would be suicide, Lord Tempestus rumbled, his blue-white scales crackling with electrical energy. Vorgoth has surrounded the World Tree's core with defenses that have repelled our best efforts for centuries. Those defenses are designed to keep you out, Malexarian countered. But I am of House Zenith. The core of the World Tree will recognize my blood. It will open to me as it never would for Vorgoth. And once inside, Lady Noctis asked, her midnight black scales absorbing light rather than reflecting it. The throne of 7 stars is attuned to all royal bloodlines, Malexarian explained. When activated by a true heir of each house, it creates a convergence of power that can reshape reality itself. Vorgoth has never been able to fully activate it because he lacks the blood of Zenith. With me present, and with representatives of each loyal house, we can create a partial convergence, enough to sever Vorgotha's connection to the void and restore balance to the ancient realms. It was a desperate gamble, but as the assembled leaders discussed the plan, a sense of possibility began to emerge. For the first time in a millennium, they had hope, not just of resistance, but of victory. As preparations began, Malexarian returned to the Heart of Zenith, now fully able to appreciate the vessel for what it was, not merely a ship, but a living extension of House Zenith's power, a cosmic dragon in its own right, bound to service through ancient pacts. In his quarters, now properly scaled to his draken form, he took a moment to center himself. The memories of his human life remained clear, providing perspective that 1,000 years of draken existence might have obscured. He understood the value of individual life in ways that immortal beings sometimes forgot. And he remembered what it meant to be powerless, to be a prisoner numbered rather than named. These experiences would shape his rule, should they succeed. He would be a different emperor than those who came before, one who understood both cosmic power and human fragility. A gentle chime announced the Laxer's arrival. The black draken entered and bowed. "The fleet assembles, my king. We await only your command to depart." Malexarian nodded. "And Vorgotha's forces?" "Moving to intercept, as expected." His warships gather near the outer reaches of the World Tree. He believes we will attempt to flee the ancient realms. Good. Let him think us cowards for a while longer. Malexarian moved to the viewport, watching as ships from the loyal houses formed up around the heart of Zenith. What of the human realms? Has the Confederacy responded to my escape? They have placed bounties on all Drakons sighted in their territories, Thalaxer reported. But they lack the means to reach the ancient realms. For now, they are a minor concern. For now, Malexarian agreed. But once Vorgith is defeated, we must address the Confederacy's corruption by the Void. The darkness has spread too far to be contained within the ancient realms alone. Thalaxer looked surprised. You would involve yourself in human affairs? The ancient houses have traditionally maintained separation from the younger realms. That separation allowed the Void to gain influence there, Malexarian pointed out. My human experiences give me a unique perspective, Thalaxer. I have seen firsthand what becomes of worlds when the darkness takes root. I will not abandon Earth or any other world to that fate. The Black Drakon studied him thoughtfully. You are indeed unlike any emperor we have known, my king. Perhaps that is precisely what the prophecies intended. A final chime sounded throughout the ship, the signal for departure. Malexarian made his way to the command chamber, now configured for his Drakon form. As he settled into the control throne, the ship awakened fully, responding to his presence with joyful resonance. Through his connection with the vessel, Malexarian reached out to the assembled fleet. Children of the ancient houses, he projected, his thoughts carried to every ship. For a millennium, you have endured darkness and exile, keeping alive the flame of hope when all seemed lost. Today, that hope becomes action. Today, we reclaim our destiny. A chorus of approval echoed back through the psychic link, the combined will of thousands of Drakons united in purpose for the first time in 1,000 years. House Zenith returns, Malexarian continued. The star of unity shines once more. Follow me now to the heart of the World Tree, to the throne of 7 stars. Follow me to victory or to oblivion, but know that whatever comes, the long night of hiding and fear ends today. With that declaration, he guided the heart of Zenith forward, leading the fleet toward the core of the massive World Tree. Behind them, the Temple of Awakening and the gathered crowds dwindled into the distance. Ahead loomed the vast trunk of the cosmic tree, its surface dotted with the lights of cities and outposts, some loyal, some under Vorgith's control. As they approached the trunk, Malexarian issued orders through the ship link. The fleet divided into formation groups, each with specific objectives. House Inferno and House Tempest would engage Vorgith's perimeter forces, drawing attention away from the main thrust. House Twilight would provide stealth cover for House Terra's heavy assault ships. House Celestia would coordinate from above, their vessels' superior sensors guiding the battle. And at the center, the heart of Zenith would drive straight for the core, carrying Malexarian and representatives from each loyal house to the throne of 7 stars. The plan was in motion. There was no turning back now. Vorgith's response came swiftly. Warships bearing the black and green colors of corrupted House Obsidian rose to meet them, hundreds strong. Behind them came darker vessels, ships that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, voidcraft, piloted by beings that had surrendered their very essence to the darkness. The battle joined in spectacular fashion. House Inferno's ships unleashed torrents of cosmic flame that burned across the void, engulfing Obsidian fighters. House Tempest called down storms of energy that shorted out void shields and weapons. House Twilight's vessels appeared and disappeared like ghosts, striking from unexpected angles before vanishing again. Through it all, the heart of Zenith drove forward, protected by a phalanx of House Terra's massive living fortresses. Malexarian directed the ship with the precision of his human pilot training combined with the instinctive understanding of his Drakon heritage. The vessel responded perfectly, evading enemy fire and returning salvos that tore through Vorgith's defenses. As they neared the trunk of the World Tree, a new threat emerged. Massive defense cannons embedded in the trunk itself opened fire, their beams of concentrated void energy capable of vaporizing even Draken vessels. Vorgoth corrupted the world tree's own defenses, Lady Astria of House Celestia reported, her silver scales reflecting the light of distant explosions. They will target you specifically, my Emperor. Your Zenith energy signature is unmistakable. Malexarian nodded grimly. Then we changed tactics. He reached deeper into his connection with the heart of Zenith, accessing systems that had lain dormant for a millennium. The royal vessels were designed with contingencies for such corruption. Through his will, the heart of Zenith began to transform. Its sleek, serpentine form contracted, becoming more compact and angular. Weapon systems reconfigured, drawing power from Malexarian himself rather than the surrounding energy fields that Vorgoth's sensors could detect. Stealth configuration. Phalaxer breathed, clearly impressed. I had heard the royal vessels possessed such capabilities, but never witnessed it. There is much about House Zenith that Vorgoth never understood, Malexarian replied, feeling the strain of powering the ship's transformation. It is why he could never truly claim the throne, despite physically occupying it for 1,000 years. With its energy signature masked, the heart of Zenith slipped past the defense cannons, approaching the massive opening that led to the world tree's interior. Here, the battle intensified as Vorgoth's elite guards recognized the threat. Dragon fought dragon in the space before the entrance, claws and teeth and breath weapons creating a spectacle of destruction unlike anything in human experience. Malexarian watched through the ship's sensors as loyal house warriors sacrificed themselves to clear a path, their courage and devotion humbling even to one born to command such loyalty. Finally, an opening appeared. With a surge of power, Malexarian drove the heart of Zenith through the gap and into the interior of the world tree. Inside was a world unto itself. Vast chambers opened one into another, connected by tunnels large enough for the greatest Draken vessels to navigate. Bioluminescent growths provided light in shades of blue and green, illuminating structures that had stood for eons before the first human civilizations arose. And everywhere, signs of Vorgoth's corruption. Black growths like cancers spread across surfaces that should have been vibrant with life. The very air seemed tainted, thick with particles of void matter that obscured visibility and interfered with sensors. The throne chamber lies at the very center, Phalaxer explained, pointing to a schematic displayed in the command center. But Vorgoth will have concentrated his defenses there. We cannot simply fly in. Malexarian studied the schematic, his tactical mind considering options. There, he said, indicating a smaller passage that branched off from the main thoroughfare. The Pathway of Ancestors. It was created as an emergency route for the royal family in times of crisis. Vorgoth will have sealed it, Lady Ignara objected. He's had a millennium to secure every approach. He can seal the physical passage, Malexarian agreed, but not the connection it represents. The pathway doesn't just exist in physical space. It's a conduit through the metaphysical structure of the world tree itself, accessible only to those of royal blood. He looked around at the representatives of each house. Together, we can open it. Understanding dawned on their faces. Each touched the medallion they wore, symbols of their houses similar to Malexarian's Star of Unity. These were not merely decorative, but keys to the deeper magic that bound the ancient houses to the world tree. Guiding the heart of Zenith to the sealed entrance of the Pathway of Ancestors, Malexarian initiated the ritual. Each house representative took position around him in the command chamber, their medallions beginning to glow with the distinctive energy of their bloodlines. Ignara's burning red, Tempestus's crackling blue, Noctis's absorbing black, Taram's vibrant green, and Astria's shimmering silver. At the center, Malexarian's Star of Unity awakened, drawing power from each house and focusing it through the pure bloodline of Zenith. The combined energy surged through him, painful in its intensity but exhilarating in its potential. Through his connection with the ship, Malexarian directed this power toward the sealed pathway. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, like a flower opening to the sun, the sealed entrance transformed. What had appeared to be solid matter phased and shifted, revealing a tunnel of pure energy that bypassed physical space entirely. "The pathway opens," Malexarian announced, his voice strained from channeling such power. Quickly, before Vorgoth senses the disturbance, the heart of Zenith entered the energy tunnel, its physical form adapting to the metaphysical nature of the passage. Inside, they traveled not through space as conventionally understood, but through the very essence of the world tree itself. Glimpses of other times and places flashed past, the ancient realms in their prime, the moment of Vorgoth's betrayal, the spell that sent infant Malexarian to Earth. The journey through the pathway took both an instant and an eternity. When they emerged, they found themselves in a vast spherical chamber at the very heart of the world tree. At the center floated the throne of 7 stars, a massive construction of living crystal that pulsed with internal light, 7 massive seats arranged in a circle around a central dais. And upon one of those thrones sat Vorgoth. The usurper was a massive draken, his scales the green-black of corrupted obsidian, shot through with veins of darkness that pulsed like infected blood vessels. A crown of void matter circled his brow, tendrils of anti-creation extending down to merge with his very flesh. His eyes were pits of absolute darkness, showing nothing of the noble draken he had once been. He rose as the heart of Zenith materialized in the chamber, surprise evident in his movements despite his alien features. "Impossible," he hissed, his voice distorted by the void's influence. The line of Zenith was extinguished. "I killed them all myself." Malexarian stepped forward as the ship's hull opened. In his true form, resplendent in his royal purple and gold scales, the star of unity gleaming at his throat, he faced the usurper who had murdered his parents and stolen his birthright. "Not all, Vorgoth," he said, his voice carrying the authority of his bloodline. "The last Zenith returns, as was prophesied. Your reign ends today." Vorgoth laughed, the sound like stones grinding together. "Prophecies? Still clinging to the old superstitions, I see." The ancient houses were always too bound by tradition to recognize true power. He gestured, and the darkness around him intensified. "I have transcended the limitations of our kind. The void has shown me the truth. Creation itself is a mistake, a cosmic error that must be corrected, and I am its chosen instrument of correction." As he spoke, void wraiths materialized around him, beings of pure anti-creation, their forms constantly shifting but always wrong, an offense to the ordered universe. They advanced on Malexarian and the House representatives, forcing them to spread out defensively. The battle for the throne of 7 stars began in earnest. Each House representative fought with the unique powers of their bloodline. Ignara wielding cosmic flame, Tempestus calling down lightning from nowhere, Noctis manipulating shadows, Turam commanding the very substance of the chamber, and Astria bending light into weapons of pure energy. Malexarian faced Vorgoth directly, drawing upon his newly awakened powers as the heir of House Zenith. Golden energy crackled around his claws as he struck at the usurper, each blow meeting Vorgoth's void-enhanced defenses with explosive force. They were evenly matched, but time favored Vorgoth. The longer the battle continued, the more void wraiths would manifest, eventually overwhelming even the combined might of the royal representatives. Malexarian knew they needed to reach the throne itself. Only by activating it with the combined bloodlines could they hope to sever Vorgoth's connection to the void and restore balance to the ancient realms. Fighting his way toward the central dais, Malexarian called to the others. "The throne. We must form the convergence." The House representatives understood, battling with renewed determination toward their respective thrones. One by one, they broke through the void wraiths surrounding them and reached their ancestral seats. Ignara claiming the throne of Inferno, Tempestus the throne of Tempest, Noctis the throne of Twilight, Turam the throne of Terra, and Astria the throne of Celestia. As each took their place, their throne awakened. ancient crystal resonating with the pure bloodline of its rightful occupant. Light spread from each seat, flowing along channels in the chamber floor toward the central dais. Only two thrones remained unclaimed, the throne of Zenith and the throne of Obsidian, the latter still corrupted by Vorgoth's long occupation. Realizing what was happening, Vorgoth abandoned his battle with Malexarian and lunged for the throne of Zenith. "No," he roared. "I will not be undone by ancient magic." But Malexarian was faster. With a final surge of strength, he reached his ancestral throne and claimed it, feeling the living crystal recognize and welcome him. Power beyond imagining flowed through him as the throne activated, completing the partial circuit created by the other house representatives. The chamber filled with light as the convergence began to form. Even incomplete, lacking a true heir of House Obsidian, the combined power of 6 royal bloodlines was enough to challenge Vorgoth's connection to the void. The usurper howled in rage and pain as tendrils of light wrapped around him, pulling the void matter from his form like poison from a wound. He fought against it, drawing deeply on the anti-creation to resist the cleansing. For a moment, the outcome hung in balance, light and darkness straining against each other with cosmic force. Malexarian felt the convergence weakening. Without all 7 bloodlines, they could not fully activate the throne of 7 stars. They could weaken Vorgoth, perhaps even defeat him temporarily, but they could not permanently sever his connection to the void. Then, in the midst of this cosmic struggle, Malexarian felt a familiar presence, a consciousness reaching out to him from across the chamber. It came from Vorgoth himself, or rather, from what remained of the noble Draken he had once been, buried beneath layers of void corruption. "Finish it," the presence urged, its mental voice weak but determined. In this nightmare, understanding dawned on Malexarian. Beneath the monster Vorgoth had become, a spark of his true self remained, the Lord of House Obsidian who had once served honorably alongside Malexarian's parents. That spark was offering itself now, a final act of redemption. Through the convergence, Malexarian reached out to that spark, offering not destruction but forgiveness. "Return to us, Lord of Obsidian. Reclaim your honor." For one crucial moment, Vorgoth's true self resurged, wresting control from the void long enough to stagger to the throne of Obsidian. As he collapsed upon it, the throne recognized not the corrupted vessel he had become, but the noble bloodline that still flowed within him. The throne of Obsidian awakened, completing the circuit. The full convergence bloomed, 7 streams of light merging at the central dais to form a column of pure creation energy that shot upward through the world tree, illuminating the ancient realms with cleansing light. The void shrieked as its hold was severed, not just on Vorgoth, but on all it had corrupted throughout the realms. Void wraiths dissolved into nothingness. Void matter burned away like morning mist, and the dark vessels that had served as the void's physical anchors in reality crumbled to cosmic dust. When the light finally faded, Vorgoth still lived, though greatly changed. The corruption had been burned away, leaving him diminished but purified. His scales, once corrupted black-green, now shone with the pure jet black of true House Obsidian. His eyes, no longer pits of darkness, revealed the golden irises of his bloodline. He looked at Malexarian with clear eyes for the first time in a millennium. "My Emperor," he said, his voice hoarse but his own again. "I am sorry. So sorry for what I became." Malexarian approached him, the other house representatives watching tensely. "The void corrupted you, Lord Vorgoth. But in the end, you chose to fight it. That choice has redeemed House Obsidian." Vorgoth bowed his head. House Obsidian stands ready to accept whatever punishment the throne of 7 stars decrees. "Not punishment," Malexarian said firmly. "Restoration. The ancient houses will be 7 again, as they were meant to be. But we must look forward, not back. The void is weakened but not destroyed. It will return, seeking new vessels, new points of entry into creation." He turned to address all the house representatives. "And we must be ready. Not hiding in the ancient realms as we have for too long, but engaging with all realms, all forms of life. The void spreads its influence everywhere, through entities like the Galactic Confederacy in the human realms, and through countless other vessels across reality. The convergence still hummed with power, the seven thrones activated for the first time in a millennium. Through this connection, Malexarian could sense the state of all creation, the balance restored in the ancient realms, but still precarious elsewhere. "We begin with Earth," he declared. "My human home has suffered under Confederacy rule, a rule corrupted by the Void's influence. We will liberate it, and from there, build a new alliance between the ancient houses and the younger realms." One by one, the House representatives nodded their agreement. Even Vorgoth, still shaken by his experience but clear-eyed in purpose, pledged House Obsidian to the cause. The redemption of the ancient realms was complete. The restoration of all creation had begun. Epilogue. 6 months later, Malek Reed, now comfortable moving between his human and draken forms as needed, stood on a balcony overlooking Manhattan. Behind him, Thalaxer waited in human disguise, now serving as both guardian and advisor to the returned emperor. Below, humans went about their daily lives, unaware that their liberation from Confederacy rule had been orchestrated by beings from beyond their understanding. The transition had been presented as a political revolution, the overthrow of corrupt officials by freedom fighters. In truth, it had been the first step in cleansing the Void's influence from the human realms. Malek smiled as he watched a group of children playing in Central Park. His human experiences gave him perspective that 1,000 years of draken existence could never have provided. He understood the value of these seemingly small, ordinary moments, the very essence of creation that the Void sought to unmake. "The Confederacy has withdrawn from 3 more systems," Thalaxer reported. "Lord Vorgoth's intelligence network has proven invaluable in identifying which officials were most heavily influenced by the Void." Malek nodded. "And the ancient realms?" "Flourishing, my king. With the world tree cleansed, new growth appears daily. The damage of 1,000 years heals quickly when balance is restored." Malek turned from the view, his expression thoughtful. "Sometimes I still expect to wake up in my cell on Prison Station Omega, to find this has all been an elaborate dream." Thalaxer smiled, the expression still somewhat unnatural on his human features. "If it is a dream, my king, it is one shared by all creation." "Not a dream," Malek said, looking up at the blue earth sky. "A second chance. For me, for the ancient houses, for all worlds touched by darkness." He straightened, his eyes momentarily flashing with their true draken fire. "And we will not waste it." High above, invisible to human eyes, the heart of Zenith orbited, a sentinel and symbol of the new alliance between the ancient houses and the worlds they had too long neglected. Once simply prisoner 804, Malek Reed had found not just a throne but a purpose that spanned all creation. The last Zenith had returned. The darkness retreated, and across all realms, light and life flourished once more. And that was the end of the story. If you listened all the way to here, don't forget to leave feedback about what you thought of the story in the comments, whether positive or negative. Your feedback helps us improve. Also leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. And I'll leave here on the screen another video that I'm sure you'll like. Big hug, and see you in the next story.